In this video, we are going to go over the Excel 2016 in practice, Chapter 5, Independent Project 5-4. Normally, I start right on the start file. However, in this particular assignment, this particular project, we're going to have to use some resources when we're working through the instructions. So what I'm going to do is just start from this location right here and just show you how I set up the resources and everything else. What I like to do is click on open the download wizard, and the first click opens up the start file. The next click, and if you can see this down here, opens up the instructions. I already have a printed copy in front of me. I will highly suggest that you print out copies of the instructions. It makes it a lot easier. I'm good at this stuff, but I still need to go very slowly and then check off each item as I do it. So that's why a printed copy is really nice. The next area, it says download resource bundle. I'm going to click it. And I'm going to skip the best practices and solution file. That's not necessary. But what happens is on my computer, anything that I download goes into my downloads folder, and it may download somewhere differently on your computer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click into my files and folders area, click into my download, I click on the date right now, and I can see that it's called a zipped file, and it has some resources in it, but you can't just open this up. You have to unzip or extract that information. So how I do it on my computer is I right click, and there's a button that says extract all, and then it says this will be extracted to, and it tells you where it's going to extract to. If you want to put it somewhere, let's say on your desktop, that's completely fine. Click extract, and I can see that it's right here. Now, if your computer is set up differently than my computer, or maybe you have a Mac, something like that, there is help for you. If you go up to the question mark, click on SimNet Instant Help, click on Resources, there should be information. It says extracting resources. There's a little video and instructions. So if my little video portion didn't help you, you can click on this. If you're still confused, you may have to go back to your instructor, to your professor, and get more help. But this is how I extract files. It goes to my downloads, I right click, extract, and then it's ready to go, and we'll use it when it comes up in the instructions. Well, to start off with this project, I'm going to open up the start file, and it'll take 1 second here. Most of the time, my computer starts off in the protected view, and you'll know it's in the protected view because you'll see a yellow bar across the top. If you see that, and here it is right here, I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger to help us out. If you see that, you can click Enable Editing. Sometimes you have to double click really quick, but then that allows you to work in this particular workbook. Now, this is the time to rename your sheet if you're instructed to do so by your instructor. However, I'm going to leave it the same. You don't have to rename it unless directed to do so by your instructor. So that completes step 1. Step 2, it says to group the Cashflow, Peoria, Champaign, and Rockford sheets. So if you know a bit about Excel, you know that this whole thing's called a workbook, but much like a regular book, there can be different sheets available to you. I'm sure that's how they created this particular program. So there are 5 different sheets here. It defaults on the cash flow sheet. That's the first sheet, but there's Peoria, Champaign, Rockford, and averages in the lower left-hand corner. They want us to group the first 4. So what I'm doing is I'm going to click back on cash flow, hold down my control button, click Peoria, Champaign, and Rockford, and then I release the control button, and then that connects all 4 of these. And what that does is if you make changes in one particular cell, it'll change it in all of the exact same cell in all of the sheets. And that can be a big time saver. It's really helpful to know how to do that. We're going to ungroup them in a moment, so to show you how to do that. But let's continue here. Step 2, that's what we did. We grouped them. And this completes step 2. Now in step 3, we need to edit and format the grouped sheets. So it says, and I'm on the cash flow sheet right here. And what I'm going to do is select A2, and we'll hold down the control button and select B2. A couple different ways to make selections. I'm going to actually just click off of that, and I can just hold down my left mouse and then select both of those. Doesn't matter how you select various ranges. Next, I'm going to click the launcher button in the alignment group. And I'm on the home tab right here. The alignment group is up here. The little launcher button is this little box in the lower right hand corner. Very important to know that there'll be little launcher boxes in the corner of most of these, and that opens up a lot more choices for you. So I'm just checking off the instructions as I go. That's why I go a little bit slowly here. I want to make sure that I do this right so you can get it right. It says in the horizontal list, it says center across selection. I'm going to do that. Then click OK. And this is similar to a merge and center. And you may be asking yourself, why would I choose to do that versus a merge and center? Well, merge and center will make both of these boxes. They'll combine both of these cells into one cell. When I do that center across selection, it centers it. However, I still have the two different cells. And sometimes the merge and center gets things a little bit messed up. So in this particular example, they want to show you how to do this center across selection. Next, it says edit the contents in cell A10. And it's written cash paid for promotion, but we want to change it to cash paid for marketing. I could double click in here, or it could go up to the top. I could delete promotion. And I typed in marketing. Please note, this is very important. Do not type in the period that you see right there. They put a period sometimes at the end and a little confusing. Don't add the period there. I'm just going to click anywhere back into the workbook there, into the sheet. And lastly, in step 3C, we are going to select cell A1. And now we're going to ungroup the sheets. And how you ungroup the sheet, you pretty much hover over any of them. I'm going to hover over the cash flow. I'm going to right click. And one of the choices, it should be towards the bottom or at the bottom. It says ungroup sheets. I've now ungrouped the sheets. And just to give you a quick look on how this works, I'm going to click on the Peoria one. You can see some of the changes were made right here. And the Champaign and the Rockford. So that completes step 3. Step 4, select the cash flow sheet. That's easy enough. That completes step 4. Step 5 is very important, and this is really what this whole chapter is all about, this idea of consolidation. And I don't want to go over all the details in this video on what consolidation means. You should be learning that as you work through the chapter. But this is a really important concept of being able to consolidate information in Excel. So what I'm going to do is just run through this relatively quickly and show you how this is done. So in step 5A, it says select cells B4 through B12. Easy enough. I'm on the cash flow sheet. B4 through B12. It says use sum to consolidate the data from the 3 different location sheets without links. Okay. This is where you have to start to think. This is an independent project, and it'll tell you exactly what to do. Now, since we're working with data, a lot of the things we're going to do is going to have to do in this data tab up top. So I select it. And now I start looking around. A little bit of information they're giving us here. I'm just going to click off of that. I can see there's different areas, different groups of information, get and transform data, queries, connections, sort and filter, and data tools. And since they're talking about consolidation, I see a button called consolidate. In fact, we're going to use this several more times. I'm going to click on consolidate. Looking pretty good so far. It says use the sum function right here. And just so you know, if you click the drop down on sum, there's lots of different choices: count, average, min, max, product, etc. We're not going to mess with any of that now. But what we do need to do is we need to consolidate the data in 3 different locations. So let's head over. I'm going to click on reference right here. I'm going to click on the Peoria sheet. And I'm going to highlight B4 through B12. And you're going to see how this works in a minute. This is going to be a little bit repetitive. And if that's the selection that I want, I'm going to click Add. And now what it's going to do, that's going to be part of the consolidation. It says on all 3 additional sheets, which means the Champaign and Rockford sheets, we're going to do the same thing. You can see that it already selects that. And if it looks good to you, it looks good to me. I'm going to click Add, and you can see it's down here. These are, so far, these are the 2 sheets that they're going to consolidate. These are the cells in the 2 sheets. Click over to Rockford, same thing. Click Add. And this is really important too. It says we don't want to use links. So on my computer, when I open this up, this box is unchecked, and we're going to leave it unchecked. Very important here. Don't check this because they don't want to link the source data. So let's click OK, cross our fingers. And things look pretty good right there. So that ends step 5. Step 6. We're going to build a static consolidation for the cash flow from banking and investment section. So let's make sure we're on the cash flow sheet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select, and once again, I literally have my pen on my instructions, and I'm checking off each thing as I do them. It says select B15 through B21. That's what that colon means. It means through. So check. And then we need to use sum as the function. We're going to head back up. You need to be on the data tab again, consolidate. And if you see anything in the all references, there's a good chance there'll be information from our previous stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that, highlight it, delete, highlight, delete. We want to start from scratch. It's a little bit annoying that it adds those references from the previous references that we worked with. You just have to remember to delete them. Not a huge deal, but you have to do that. Okay, I'm going to click in. This is important. Click in the reference area. Make sure this is on sum. It should default to sum, but make sure it says sum under function. I clicked in the reference so I can see a blinking cursor there. And then what I need to do this pretty quickly. Click on Peoria. And that's the range on the Peoria sheet. Sure, it looks good. I click Add. Head over to Champaign. It's already saying, hey, we're pretty sure you want to do that again. I click Add. Rockford. I click Add. I'm not going to click anything else here. I'm just going to click OK. I'm not going to click any of these other things. Just OK. It comes back to the cash flow sheet right here, and you can see that it grabbed information, summing those up in the same cells on those other sheets, which is pretty nice. Making sure there's nothing else for 6. That should complete step 6. Step 7. We're going to do a similar thing. We're going to use a static consolidation for the cash balance. In this case, it's just going to be one cell, which is B24. And we need to go up here, Data tab, Consolidate. If there's any references in there, you must delete them. There probably will be. Delete them. Make sure it's on sum. Click in the references box. Make sure you see your blinking cursor in the references box. Go over to Peoria. Click B24. Add it. Champaign. Check it out. Does it make sense? Add it. Rockford sheet. It's there, add it. I can see all three of them. Looks pretty good. Click OK. And we won't do the math right here, but 32,000 approximately, well, and change, 35 and 45. Yep, it should equal just about 113 and $564. So it looks like we did step 7 correctly. That completes step 7. Step 8, we need to insert a picture from a file. This is hopefully a little more basic than the other stuff we're working with, but it's important that you downloaded the resources and extracted that file in the beginning, because this is where you're going to go to grab that image. It's WHES. So let's just go over step by step here. Head back up to the top. Need to be on the cash flow sheet. I click in cell A1. I click delete. Gets rid of it. Then I click on cell D2. And you know you're on D2 because it's here, obviously, and you can see it says D2 in the upper left-hand corner. Next, we need to head up to the Pictures button, and it tells you Insert tab, but I always tell my students, anytime you need to insert something, well, look up top. Oh, there's an Insert button. This is where you can insert lots of stuff right here. In this case, we're going to click on Pictures. And I'm going to look for where I downloaded those resources before. Hopefully I'll be able to find them, and I can see it right here. If I want, sometimes I click on the date and it just gives me everything for that date. If you put it somewhere else, you'll have to find it. But I'm going to click inside this unzipped, this extracted folder. Might have to click it twice, and there's the WHES PNG file. I select it, click insert, and boom, there it is in D2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the height of this. And just so you know, if you click off of that image, that information up top, that tab goes away. So if I click anywhere back in that image, new picture tools opens up, the format tab, and this is where we're going to do a little bit of work. We need to change the height of the box. Over here is the size group, and the height we need to change to 1.2. You can type it in there. I'm using a little down arrow to make it work for me. And I pressed enter. Looks good. Next, we need to format the height of row 1. I'm just going to click out of that right there. Click back on. I just want to make sure that the height is in fact changed, and it is, so that's good. So next I'm going to click on the number 1. This is where we're going to affect the row height. And this is a good thing to know. You can do the same thing on the columns as well, but in this case we're going to click right over top of the 1. I'm going to right click. I'm on a PC. And one of the choices says row height. Click it. It should be on 26.25, but regardless, I'm going to put in 86.25. Click OK. It's going to make a much fatter row. It says point to the logo frame to display the move pointer. So basically what it's saying is click somewhere near the edge of this, and it's those arrows, those that go in 4 directions. And what they're going to have us do is literally drag this from D2 into A1. So inside the picture, I'm holding down my main mouse button. I'm pushing it as far up and to the left as I can. I release. I'm going to click outside of that and then click back in. It should be in cell A1. Next, the very last step here, it says click on D2. I'm going to do that. Just want you to click out of that picture. And that completes step 8. Let's move on to step 9. I'm going to create a dynamic consolidation for the statement of average and cash flow. So in step 9A, it says click on the averages sheet. We're going to be working on the averages sheet for a few minutes here. So make sure you're on that sheet. And we're going to do a very similar process, except this time it's going to be dynamic, which means if some information changes in the future, it'll go through and change it everywhere, where static really doesn't allow much changing to happen. So what we need to do on 9B, it says select cells B4 through B12. Not too dissimilar from what we did on the cash flow sheet a few steps ago. And then it says use the average function to consolidate data on Peoria, Champaign, and Rockford files. So we're on the averages sheet. That's important. Click on data, consolidate. There shouldn't be anything here. If there is, get rid of it. Now we need to choose the average. If it's not on average, put it on average. Click inside the reference area, and let's head on over to Peoria sheet. Select B4 through B12. That looks good. Add it. Champaign, add it. Rockford, add it. And now this next step is very important. We need to make sure there's links to the source data. And you'll know that's going to happen because this will be checked off. It says create links to source data. Make sure there's a check mark in there. Trust me, folks. And it all looks good. I'm going to click OK. It's looking good to me. By the way, if you see this little warning area, it just means some data is not protected. This cell isn't protected. So someone could accidentally change things and mess things up. It's not really a huge deal right now, but just know that that's I'm going to click ignore error, click on it and ignore error. But that's what that little warning symbol means. So that was step 9C. And then I know in 9D, it says it wants us to do the same thing with cash flow. So I'm on the averages sheet. I'm going to click all of that information right there. I'm just reading the instructions. It says, yep, from the banking and investment section. We're going to choose that data, and then in a minute we're going to do the same thing with the cash balance at the end of the quarter. So I've highlighted it looks like B31 through B37. Consolidate. Let's get rid of this stuff. Make sure it's on average. Click in the references box and click on Peoria. I'm going to highlight that same information here. Looks like on this sheet it's B15 through B21. Going to add it. Champaign, add it. Rockford, add it. Make sure that that is checked. Create links to source data. Click OK. See things changed here a little bit. That's okay. Just going to get rid of that little. I'm going to ignore the error. And then lastly, we have to do the cash balance at the beginning of the quarter. I'm going to click on that. I'm just double checking to make sure that's what they want. And click consolidate. We need to get rid of this stuff. Delete, delete, delete. It says to use average. Make sure it's on average. Click in the reference box. Click in the Peoria sheet. Select that. Click add. Champaign sheet. It's ready to roll there. Click add. Rockford sheet. Looks good. Add. Create links to source data. Yes. Click OK. Then it says click on cell A1. And most likely, if you did this correctly, you'll see these areas where you can expand the data and see what's going on. You can see what information and where this information comes from. So that's why the numbering here is just a little bit different than on the other sheets here. You can play around with this. This is a neat little feature in Excel. You can minimize them or expand that information. Let me click on A1. I did that. And that completes step 9. Step 10, insert and copy a hyperlink. Let's go through this quickly. 10A, click on cell D3 on the Peoria worksheet. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger here. Click on D3, and it says create a hyperlink that displays company averages and switches to cell A1 on the averages sheet. So let's do this. What we need to do is on the Insert tab, click on the hyperlink area. Click on that. And we need to choose place in this document. We need to select averages, and A1 is the reference. And text to display, it wants us to put in company averages. So if I click OK, let's check this out. I'm just going to click off of this and back into the Peoria sheet. Then I'm going to click, well, I'm just going to click out of it and in it. I just want to make sure I'm not on it. And it takes us to cell A1 on the averages sheet. Click back on the Peoria sheet. I'm going to right click. This is step 10C. Copy. It says on the Champagne sheet, click in D3, right click. I just click paste. You can see it paste it right there. Does it work? Yes, it does. Click on the Rockford sheet, D3, paste. Click out of it, test it out. Click back on the Peoria, just want to double check here. It does. And here we're just doing it, that was steps C, D, and E, and then F, it says click back on the Peoria sheet and then hit the escape button, and that just makes sure that you're not in that copy mode anymore. That's all that's saying. The escape button gets you out of that. And it said to test it in 10G, and we did that, so we could do that one more time. See, it takes us back to the averages sheet, and it takes us to cell A1. And that completes step 10. Step 11 has us save and close the workbook. Step 12 has us upload and save the project. And finally, step 13 has us submit the project for grading. Best of luck, everybody.